Do not draft these wide receivers in fantasy football. You guys are getting a ton of content from us, Ball Game Fantasy. Be sure to check out all of our videos we've posted every single day in the month of August, and we will continue to do so through the month of August and into the first week of February. A whole lot of fantasy football content, and your drafts are right around the corner, so now is the perfect time to listen to our advice and hear the guys that we don't believe you should be drafting at the wide receiver position. So I'll get this thing started by saying the first one for me is a guy that is going at the top of the second round. Drake London, currently the wide receiver 7 and being drafted at the 16th overall pick. Personally, this is not a knock on the player. I love Drake London. I know my guy Tom, our guy Tom, loves Drake London. I just can't get behind spending this type of a draft pick on a guy that throughout his career has had awful quarterback play. I don't think that's a secret. And theoretically, Tua should be an upgrade. But, man, if you have seen Falcons Twitter, it does not seem like Tua is much of an upgrade to the other quarterbacks that they have had so far. Just a few years back, this is really what you're drafting based upon. He was the wide receiver 5 with 158 targets, and you're hoping and praying that he can replicate that throughout the entirety of this season. But aside from that, he's had either an injury slow him down, like this past season, where he finished as the wide receiver 19 in 12 games, which, by the way, is ridiculous and a testament to the talent that he is. But aside from that, underwhelming production as the wide receiver 37 and 31 in his sophomore and rookie seasons. Obviously, he's had the one great year of production, but outside of that, this is the ceiling. You are drafting Drake London at his ceiling. You are drafting Drake London at the guy that you hope he can be with all the other factors working against him. I know there's not much target competition. I understand that. But the offense at least has to be effective for Drake London to be a decent wide receiver in fantasy football, a top 5, top 7 wide receiver in fantasy football. And while I have him as the wide receiver 12, I still think he is a wide receiver 1 borderline, but I can't justify spending this high of a pick on a guy that I'm getting at his ceiling.
Yeah, I agree. I think there's no world where Drake London finishes as a top 5 receiver, and I feel like when you're drafting a guy at the wide receiver 7, that's kind of what you're hoping for. And again, I think, I'm a Tua guy. I love Tua through and through, but I don't know how much he really helps a Drake London, and it just seems bad in Atlanta right now. I think something that is in his favor is James Pierce being suspended for the first 8 games because their defense will be pretty bad, so they will throw the ball a lot.
And Jalen Walker out.
Right. So they will throw the ball a lot, but I don't know how much of a ceiling there is on a guy without great quarterback play when there's guys going after him like a George Pickens, who, even though he is a wide receiver 2, is in a great offense and has great quarterback play, and A.J. Brown playing with an MVP-level quarterback, even a Nico Collins playing with C.J. Stroud.
And no Jaden Higgins anymore.
Right. So, I feel like this is just I like the player, but I wouldn't draft him at his current price.
Completely agree. That's kind of where I sit with him. I love him. Hate the guys that are drafted around him. Can't pull the trigger.
Yeah. Another guy who, similar logic. I like the player. I don't hate the draft position, but I just like the guys going after him more. It's Tetairoa McMillan. It's my guy. He finished as the PPR wide receiver 16 last year. I feel like a lot of that was just due to playing every game and some guys missing games. I think in points per game he wasn't that high up there. He was more like the wide receiver 20. He's being drafted as the wide receiver 15, and it's just too steep a price for me. I have him as my wide receiver 18, but again, he's kind of leading that charge of that clump of 3rd, 4th round receivers. I think he's right now the 36th player off the board, so right at the end of the 3rd round. But you got guys like Smitty, Zay Flowers, Jalen Waddle, Ladd McConkey, Emeka Egbuka, all going after him. And it's a guy who is playing on an offense that we don't project to be that good passing the ball, right? Like, I'm a Bryce Young truther. I think he takes a step forward this year, but I don't know how much of a step that entails compared to a guy like Jalen Waddle playing alongside Bo Nix, who led the league in passing attempts last year. Ladd McConkey, who's also a penciled-in number 1 receiver, playing in a great Chargers offense with an elite quarterback. Bryce Young last year went over 207 passing yards only 3 times all last year. To put that into perspective, Dallas went over that in 15 to 17 games last year. T-Mac was great in those games where
Yes.
Bryce Young did go over 207 yards. He averaged 105 yards per game in those games. But it's like Bryce Young is a big question mark, and that makes me question the ceiling of a guy like Tetairoa McMillan when there's these guys going around him who I think we don't know what the ceiling is
Yes.
because they could be in such great offenses. Even Zay Flowers, who doesn't score a ton of touchdowns, is in a great Baltimore offense with a new offensive coordinator who said they're going to feed him as much as possible. Same with Emeka Egbuka. Like it's a situation change. In terms of T-Mac, nothing really changed around him. And it's not a bad thing. Like I still think he's going to have a good statistical year, but I think the ceiling is just capped. Like I don't think it gets much better than it did last year for T-Mac this year.
Yeah, I mean, this kind of goes hand in hand with a video that we posted just a couple days ago. You are a big believer in Jalen Coker. And while, no, you're not saying Jalen Coker is going to take over as the wide receiver one for this team, the guy didn't play for a majority of last season or half of last season. So it's like you get that guy back for a full year now, a guy that's going to be getting some targets, a talented receiver that's probably only going to hurt T-Mac in a way. So I completely agree, and it plays into exactly what you said just a couple days ago. Check that video out as well. My next guy is a wide receiver 2 for his football team, but currently going as the wide receiver 14 overall. I'm going to start by saying I don't love drafting a clear-cut wide receiver 2 in general this high in fantasy football drafts. George Pickens is the exception to the rule, in my personal opinion, because they throw as much as they do, and on top of that, the guy could damn near outperform CeeDee Lamb. This guy, there is no shot he is going to outperform his wide receiver 1. It's T. Higgins. He's going towards the back end of the 3rd round over guys like Smitty, Ladd, Zay, even Emeka, as you just mentioned, some of those guys that we really don't know the true ceiling of a guy like that because they're the number 1 in their offense. And you can argue that he's finished as the wide receiver 15 in 15 games. Wide receiver 17 in 12 games in the past. And in a full season, the only full season he has played in his career, full 17, he finished as the wide receiver 18. The guy has never in his career finished as high as he is being drafted right now. And he's been in the league for 6 seasons. So he's either going to miss games. He is the clear-cut wide receiver 2 for his football team. Yes, I'm the highest person you will ever speak to on Joe Burrow this upcoming season. Ask anybody. But at the same time, I cannot get behind drafting a guy like T. Higgins this high over possible wide receiver 1s. And it's so reliant on touchdown production as well. And while, yes, he gets touchdowns, I understand that. I'm banking on the guy missing a few games. He's not going to finish as the wide receiver 14. It's just not likely to happen. I can't do it. I can't pull the trigger on T. Higgins. It's just too rich for me.
Yeah, I think you make a great point about him being the wide receiver 2 in his offense. Like, forget about where he's finished in his career, never going higher than the wide receiver 14. This is a guy whose career high in targets is 110.
Yep.
When you mention the guys going after him who are probably the unquestioned number 1s in their offense, you're talking about a ceiling of 140 targets for some of those guys. So there's just more opportunity. And yes, T. Higgins the past 2 years has gone double-digit touchdowns. There's too many question marks surrounding his health, surrounding Joe Burrow's health.
Exactly.
And I like to say, F the injuries, like scared money doesn't make money, but when it's been such a trend for his career, like it's one or the other. You're not just factoring one guy's injuries here. If T gets hurt, obviously he's not in your lineup because he's not playing. If Joe Burrow goes down, you probably have a hard time putting T. Higgins in your lineup. So it's like 2 things could go wrong for T. Higgins and completely derail this season. And again, he's finished as in 2024. He was wide receiver 3 in points per game, and that was awesome. He was a great best ball pick because he turned up down the stretch of the year. But it's like for a full season, you're not getting that out of T. Higgins.
Yes.
He's never shown to give that to you for a full season. So yeah, I'm avoiding it. It's very similar to T-Mac because they're going back to back in drafts, and it's just those guys going after them are so much more valuable to me. And it's not even like you're getting that big of a discount on them. Like, you probably have to just draft one of those guys where you would draft T. Higgins
100%.
or T-Mac, but I'm that much more confident in those guys than I am at T. Higgins. So.
Yeah, I mean, Zay Flowers is going 8 whole picks behind T. Higgins. And it's just, for me, a half a round, it's a lot of picks for a guy that I believe in more than I even believe in.
Right, but it's like you're not going to be able to
but you're not going
to be able to wait to take Zay Flowers.
No
you
shot.
know what I'm saying? Like at that point where you would draft T. Higgins, you just got to draft the guy. Yeah. So I'm definitely with you there. Another guy that I'm avoiding a little bit deeper down the board is a rookie. It's Makai Lemon, currently going as wide receiver 38. I have him as my wide receiver 46. I'm just not feeling this one. This doesn't feel like one of those rookie wide receiver league winners to me. First things first, he's already not practicing and dealing with an injury, and I think he should be good for week 1, but I'm not too sure. This is a guy who played basically exclusively in the slot in college and did most of his damage over the middle of the field. His yards per route run was one of the best of any prospect over the past 10 years, which is awesome, but he gets paired up with a quarterback in Jalen Hurts who has struggled throwing in that area throughout his career. Yes, they make the OC change to Sean Mannion, and they've come out and said they want to attack that area more. I don't think that's just as easy as saying, hey, we're going to do this, and they're going to be effective at it. And then, again, he's a slot guy. I don't know if he's going to play in 2 wide receiver sets. Honestly, just making a prediction, given that he's not practicing right now to start the season, there's probably no way he's going to be on the field in 2 wide receiver sets. They went out and traded for Dontavion Wicks. They went out and signed Hollywood Brown. They have depth at wide receiver. They're one of the deepest wide receiver rooms in the league. And I think Dontavion and Hollywood, 2 completely different players, but profile as that opposite receiver to a Devontae Smith in 2 wide receiver sets. And this is a team that's going to want to go under center. They're going to want to put heavy personnel out there. I don't know how much 11 they're even going to be running. So I think Makai Lemon's going to struggle to get on the field. And then when he does get on the field, I don't think it's a seamless fit with Jalen Hurts. I'm completely avoiding this.
Yeah, it really doesn't help when a rookie hasn't been around too much for the biggest reps that you will get throughout the entirety of the offseason. And then, like you said, I mean, on top of that, Smitty is the clear-cut wide receiver 1. We know that. He's built a rapport with Jalen Hurts in the past already. Dallas Goedert still exists. Eli Stowers was a second-round tight end that they drafted, and all the reports about Dontavion Wicks is just that he is cooking everybody, and he's the guy. So there's too much playing against Makai Lemon, and while, yes, I think he's a great player, it's just there's way too much that blares the red signs at me not to draft him. So I'm with you. I just think it's too rich for my blood. But my final player, and I just think this one's a little bit too rich for me. It's funny because this is actually the first guy that we have legitimately completely separated on. We've been pretty consistent with our rankings and everything in general. This is the one guy that we've separated on, and I see your vision, but I also see the opposite side of the coin with Rashee Rice. He's currently going as the wide receiver 11, and let me say I love the football player, hate the person, but on top of that, he's super fun to watch. Do not get me wrong. When the guy's got the ball in his hands, he's arguably the best in the entire NFL. Rashee Rice going as the wide receiver 11 is just insane to me because the guy has missed more than half the games available to him in his career so far. And him going in front of guys or around guys like Nico Collins, in front of a Malik Neighbors. I know we don't love Chris Olave, but Olave with Tyler Shuck was a top 5 wide receiver in fantasy football last year. So we're talking about just a few guys that are significantly less risk. I mean, you could argue the Malik Neighbors injuries, but it's not just injuries with Rashee Rice. It's poor decision-making. It's missing a lot of the offseason programs because of one thing or another. And while, yes, there's very limited competition here, I also do believe that Rashee Rice, after the injuries and after not being able to have a full offseason, being in prison for 30 days on top of it while rehabbing an injury, I don't think he's going to come back as the same player. And on top of that, I just can't trust that the guy's going to play a full 17 and make me look like the wide receiver 11 price was worth it and passing up on some of the other guys around him. So, yes, the talent of the player is undeniable. I take nothing away. If you have played less than half of the games in your career so far for one reason or another, I just can't. I can't pull the trigger with this high of a draft pick at the back end of the second round or early third. I just can't do it. And scared money don't make money, so I understand your point as well.
Yeah, I definitely see the sentiment. Like, it's a hard button to press. It definitely makes it harder when, like, this matters. Like, it's fantasy football. Not everyone is a diehard sweat at fantasy football who's living in the numbers. Like, sometimes it is just about this guy's a shitty human being and I don't want to root for him for an entire NFL season. And by that logic, like I'm with you. I think the range he's going is a decent price. Like I think that's baking in that stuff that he might not play a full 17 because when he's on the field, to me, his floor is honestly a top 5 wide receiver in the game. I think in fantasy.
Yes.
I think
very clear.
The target volume he gets and what he could do with the ball in his hands. Also, he's a red zone threat. And the Chiefs just, to me, didn't really add anyone in the passing game to take away from that.
Yeah.
I know the Cyrus Allen buzz is loud right now.
Yeah.
He's honestly getting some of the most buzz I've ever seen out of a rookie in camp for a fifth round guy. Like, it's been a lot, and I think he's going to develop into a good player. I don't think in the immediate future he's going to really take away from Rashee Rice. I think the Chiefs' offense is at their best when they're running the offense through Rashee Rice. So I feel like when he's on the field, he is going to produce. I mean, you mentioned like he's going a spot above Malik Neighbors. I would take Neighbors over him today. But I think the same concerns arise, right? Like Malik Neighbors, you could say is a good human being. Malik Neighbors is a guy who's also not played half of his
100%.
games. You know what I'm saying? Chris Olave going to pick 2 wide receiver spots after him is a guy who has injury concerns before last year. Nico Collins going 1 spot above him hasn't played a full year in 2 seasons. George Pickens, the questions of him being a wide receiver 2 and having CD back. I think A.J. Brown is fine there, but even like Drake London going so much above Rashee Rice doesn't make sense to me. So it's like, to me, I think it's, I wouldn't even say it's a value because again, statting him out to play a full 17, I do have him much higher than this. I'd be shocked if he does play a full 17. So I think factoring that in, he probably finishes somewhere around here, maybe a few spots lower depending on how many games he misses here and there. But I think it's a fair price. But I definitely see the rationale for like, I just don't want to press that button.
I'm honestly not opposed to drafting a Rashee. It's just if it was 1 full round later, that back end of the 3rd round, I'm pressing that button if he somehow falls there.
Fair.
He won't, but I would pull that trigger. That's where I start to do it.
It's tough too because of like what you said, like where you're drafting him. Like it completely depends on team build. Like I'm in the camp of like, if I start my team with 2 running backs, I don't mind the upside shot of Rashee being my wide receiver 1. But I feel the same way about Malik Neighbors. So like, I think I think they're very similar in terms of like the profile and the risk and
100%.
The upside with them. Rashee Rice is just a shitty human being. Like that's the only difference between the two to me. So
definitely. Yeah.
But because I could definitely see like, I know we're both super high on Malik Neighbors and like, the talent with Malik Neighbors is just to a different level of a Rashee Rice, I think. I think Malik Neighbors could be the very best receiver in all of football at his best. I know you probably agree.
100% do.
But I think I could see some people coming to us and saying, I don't want to press the button on Malik Neighbors
100%.
Because I'm scared of the injury. Like, it's kind of the same thing. You know what I mean?
Definitely agree.
I think that stuff's baked into the price. So.
For sure.
My next guy that I'm avoiding is a guy, again, a little bit further down the board. I can't believe he's still going this high. It's Jakobi Meyers as a wide receiver 42. I'm confused by it. On his own team, there are guys going above him, 2 guys going above him, BTJ at the wide receiver 31, and then Parker Washington at the wide receiver 35. To me, I just feel like this should have corrected itself by now. I think this is... To me, this discrepancy between the 3 guys tells me the fantasy community still isn't sure who the wide receiver 1 is, and there's still hope that it could be Jakobi Meyers, and I think that's just completely out of the range of outcomes for Jakobi. I have him as my wide receiver 55. Like, I'm not there on him. I think Parker Washington is the clear wide receiver 1 in this offense. I feel like at this point, if you don't believe that, you're just telling lies to yourself. And I think also based on what we've heard, BTJ is the clear wide receiver 2 in this offense. They've been raving about him all summer. And, you know, there's been a few clips of Jakobi Meyers making a catch here and there. But in terms of the coach speak, it's been pretty quiet about Jakobi Meyers. And I feel like at this point, there's nothing new to know about Jakobi Meyers. I mean, he finished as the wide receiver 32 last year in full PPR, which was his lowest finish of the last 5 years. So, like, that's been his for the last 5 years. He's finished as high as the wide receiver 19. I just don't think that's the role he's going to play. He finished as a wide receiver 19 as the wide receiver 1 in Las Vegas. Last year was interesting for the Jaguars because it started as BTJ getting these weird targets that he wasn't supposed to get. They bring in Jakobi Meyers. They kind of leaned on Jakobi Meyers a lot when they first got him, and then Parker Washington kind of just put his foot in the door and took over the wide receiver 1 role. And a lot of that came with BTJ missing a few games and probably playing injured. To me, Jakobi Meyers is just the third guy in this offense. And then at the wide receiver 42, he's going ahead of wide receivers we love. Jordan Addison, Quentin Johnson, Wan'Dale Robinson, Josh Downs, Jaden Reed, still going ahead of Stephon Diggs. I think that's going to fix itself. Stephon Diggs is still the wide receiver 48.
Yeah,
but even Romeo Doubs, Deebo Samuel, Jalen Coker all the way down there. Like, there's a ton of guys going after Jakobi Meyers that he will not be on any of my teams this year.
Yeah, especially as you get down the board to those spots. It's just like, I'm betting on upside now.
There's no upside with Jakobi Meyers.
Exactly, and it's not even a shot at the player himself. He's he's one of those players where it's real life football, 100%. Significantly more valuable than he is in fantasy football. He came to the Jags and unlocked the offense in a way that you never could have imagined Jakobi Meyers doing. But for me, I'm shooting on that upside. I'm trying to get a guy that could be a top 24, top 20, and I just do not, under any circumstances, see that as a finish for Jakobi Meyers, unless in the only world is if both of those guys are non-existent in the Jaguars passing attack or injured or something like that. So I don't think there's a world where Jakobi could finish where I would want him to finish if I'm drafting him. So
yeah, again, it's really not a knock on the player. Like, he was awesome last year.
Yes.
I mean, 75 for 835 and 3 touchdowns is awesome. When he got to Jacksonville in 9 games there last year, he had 42 for 483, and all 3 of his touchdowns were in those 9 games. So, like, he was awesome when he got to the team. I just think they have so much like, even Travis Hunter could come in and mess this up. 100%. And I think, me personally, I think if he's going to mess it up for anyone, it is Jakobi Meyers. I know they've been saying BTJ is going to come off the field for Travis Hunter. I don't really believe that for a second. That he was a first-round pick. Like, they have a plan for him. So I think it's kind of like Liam Cohen in year 2. This is a young team, kind of out with the old. Like, Jakobi Meyers is here to just be a veteran on this team, and the other guys are going to eat, and he's just going to help everyone else around him, like you mentioned.
So while I do agree with that sentiment, I will also say that this is a different regime. Like, Liam Cohen, Brian Thomas isn't his guy. You know what I mean?
100%.
So it's like he has no loyalty to him. He doesn't owe him nothing. So it's like he just wants to put the best guys out there and win as many football games. But I think Brian Thomas has a bounce back. Like, I think he has a semi-bounce back this year.
The coach speak almost tells me, like, even though Liam Cohen and James Gladstone didn't draft BTJ, like, he's one of their guys.
For sure.
They see him as a integral part of their future. I mean, they had so many trade offers for him too at the trade deadline, didn't flip him. So yeah, I mean, wide receiver 42 for Jakobi Meyers is insane.
No, it's wild. It's wild. It's like I said, just when you get to that point down the board, it's like, just take all the upside shots. That's how I view fantasy football. Like, after I've built out my lineup, how often am I really going to pull the trigger on a guy that, like, I don't see any upside with? Probably a pretty decently safe floor, but even that isn't reliable with Jakobi Meyers at this point. But
I don't know. There are guys who have the upside to lead their team as a wide receiver, but forget about that. Those guys are locked and loaded into a wide receiver 2 spot. Yep. Jordan Addison is locked and loaded to be the number 2 target getter on the Vikings with an upgraded quarterback, obviously KOC. Like, that's a no-brainer to me. Wan'Dale Robinson isn't going to score a lot of touchdowns.
He might be the number 1 target.
Right, but his floor is locked in to be the number 2 on a team with a bad defense that's going to throw the ball a ton. Like, why would I draft Jakobi Meyers over Wan'Dale Robinson? There's no reason at all.
None. Yeah, I mean, it's very clear as day to me. I'm pulling up from Curry range when I'm taking anybody in that range. So
even Stribling going much later than him. Like, I'd much rather take the shot on Deshaun Stribling than
because of the injuries too in the San Francisco.
Right. Like, Jakobi Meyers, like, it really isn't a knock on the player. Jakobi Meyers, he's a classic guy. Like,
he is the most classic.
You can't hate Jakobi Meyers, but that price is just not it for me.
No, I completely agree. I'm with you 1,000%. So you guys obviously have your fantasy drafts coming up very soon. you could listen to our advice or you could steer completely clear of it. That is totally up to you. But we have posted a video every single day in the month of August during the week for you guys to watch and listen and take what we have and take our opinions and formulate your own based upon it. So we've done mock drafts from every single spot from 1 through 8 from what you've seen so far. The 9th overall pick is coming out the next day as you're watching this. The entirety of next week will be tight ends that we love and hate on top of the final 3 spots in the mock drafts. I hope you guys are enjoying all of our content. And if this isn't enough, you can follow all of our other channels, BallGame Podcast, BallGame Triv, BallGame Unlimited. Enjoy all of it. Ton of BallGame content. And with that,
Ball game.